What is up, guys? PoliticsGaming here, and today we are doing a brand new episode of the United States. In the previous episode, essentially what we did, it was an overview of exactly what the plan is for the United States, and essentially kind of going over some of the laws that I want to get passed, and as well, in this episode, essentially what we're going to be concentrating on is major tax reform. One of the biggest promises of a Joe Biden administration is that he wants to reform our tax system to, for one, get the rich people to start paying their fair share, and two, he also wants to dismantle the tax reform that Donald Trump introduced into the previous administration. In terms of gameplay, essentially, we do have some of these that are reflecting the previous administration's tax policies. We had a 21% company tax, and then we also have significantly lower income taxes as well. Essentially what I'm going to be doing, we're going to return this to about 39%. I think I can introduce I think we can introduce this to 39%, but then leave the middle and low brackets exactly where they are. Gun tax, I think we could shoot to get that above, that's funny. I think we could shoot to get the gun tax above $100 as a solid tax policy. These are not in any way reflective of my own views. Again, this is only in terms of me playing as Joe Biden. So this is me reflecting his policies, but then it's also me kind of doing other things on a gameplay standard, because obviously there are some things that I can't do. We're going to be expanding a lot of energy, a lot of oil. So again, there's probably one side I'm going to be doing Joe Biden policies, the other side I'm probably not going to be reflecting that much of his policies. Let's see, when are you going to be done? It's going to be done on the 26th of February, and that's good. That's actually tomorrow, so let's go ahead and skip over.
We've obtained some information.
We're going to go ahead and overview that. Let's go to the next day, try to see and pump some air and capture process. Oh, that's really good. Let me hang on real quick. We got a couple of messages. Tax on industrial pollution has been passed. The tax on the companies have been passed, and then now increased company contributions. Let's see, Mr. President. You know as well as I that the increase in contribution is a barrier to our business's competitiveness. For the sake of our economy, it would be better to revise our work. And that is from the Federal Employer Union, the leader of the Federal Employer Union. Company taxes, swing to the right. In the agreement with the party secretary general, I must remind you that the goal of a political organization like ours should be to alleviate as much as possible the contributions paid by businesses. That is, of course, if there is a real intention of agreeing with the ideals of the party. That's odd. Usually these guys, I mean, I guess it's because he's center left. So that's somewhat sucks. I mean, let's look at his likabilities, I guess. Doesn't say anything about company contributions. Looks like all of these have finally been passed. So let's go ahead and start off with our tax reform. Inheritance tax, I'm going to leave at 40%, but I think I can introduce a $100 gun tax. No, that is gonna be hard for us to do. Parliament's position, we can get that passed. We can even get past the Senate. Let's introduce this as a tax reform and call this the American, whoa, that's in caps. Let's call it the American Jobs Act of 2020. Just give it a fancy name. Probably isn't really reminiscent. Let's actually call it the American Revenue Act of 2020. That's going to be a better fitting name. So let's go ahead and create that reform. And employee Social Security payments, in correlation to what Joe Biden does want to do, I think he does actually want to increase the payroll tax. So I think we could afford possibly. Yeah, Republicans are gonna like that, so that's gonna get us some eager, really good Republican support, but the people aren't gonna really like that at all. But you guys voted me in. You guys wanted some free healthcare, so let's go ahead and add that to the American Revenue Act. And then in terms of our employers, think we could afford for them to pay an additional 0.5%. It's going to fetch us an additional $21 billion to see the positions of that. That is actually very unpopular. Let me cancel that, and then let's shoot to get that to 15.8%. That's going to get us about $10 billion. Could we get that past Congress? We are not able to get that past Congress. Can we get this past Congress? It's a gun tax and an employee social security payments, but it's not. I don't have the support to get myself to increase the social security payments, and by the employer are invisible to employees. They're generally higher than employees' social charges that go toward funding social welfare. I guess, hang on, I guess maybe we could afford something like that. Petroleum products, can we get you to 6 cents? How will that pass? It's kind of not really the most supported by the people, but we can get it past Congress, so that is going to be attached to the American Revenue Act. The adverse effects of this tax reform on the economy are going to be very drastic, so that's something we're going to be watching for. Let's go ahead and try to see if we can get industrial pollution tax to 0.5%. We can get it past to 0.5%. Can we get it to 0.7%? That's going to fetch us about $42 billion. Senate does not want to do that, so let's go ahead and do it at 0.05%. Add that to the American Revenue Act of 2020. We're not going to mess with the pornography industry. Can we get this to $15? And the reform now has a 68% chance of passing the House and a 69% chance of passing the Senate. Can we get you to the original 39%? I think we could actually go for about 40%. And that is a just more of a progressive tax policy. What if we do 25% on the middle class? We're going to say no to that, but we're going to increase on the high bracket. American Revenue Act 2020 is going to fetch us about $20 billion. And let's go ahead and create a few different taxes right here. We're going to create a tax on large fortunes. Since we are more of a democratic regime, we're going to ask that some people, wow, they really do not want to do that. What about 0.2% of their large fortune? Don't have enough democratic support in the House, so I guess we're going to have to drop that for right now. Vehicle registration tax, we're going to say no to that. Real estate tax, could we... Let's go ahead and introduce a deforestation tax. That is going to be really important for our environmental policy. That is not going to pass the Senate, but we can do a $50 tax, and that will help. 56, 51, it's going to just barely pass the Senate, but we're going to go ahead and attach it to the American Revenue Act of 2020. That'll help. Carbon tax, we're not going to introduce that yet. We're going to introduce that on our own. But we are going to introduce a GAFA tax, or a tax on large digital companies. This tax, also called the GAFA tax, is intended to compensate for the loss of business tax owed by the massive digital companies who relocate their headquarters to different countries from their customers in order to benefit from a more advantageous tax system. Around half of these web giants are American, while the quarter of them are Chinese. The countries that host these multinational headquarters, which is usually going to be Ireland or even Luxembourg, benefit from jobs and economy that they can create locally, so naturally they are opposed to this tax. Let's introduce a 2.5% GAFA tax. Could we get that past Congress? Can we check? We cannot get that past Congress. Can we do a 1.5% tax? That will not get past Congress. Can we do a 0.5% tax? That will get past Congress. Can we do 0.75? Can we? We can. We can get that passed. Let's go ahead and add that to the American Revenue Act. That's going to get us about an additional $1 billion. Carbon tax. This is going to be very controversial, might even start some riots, but we can get it past Congress. Let's go ahead and attach that to the American Revenue Act. And I think that's going to be our tax reform. Did we introduce that on our own? Whoa, I think we're about to, yeah, we're gonna have to introduce something to get some more support in Congress. Real estate, audiovisual, legislation. Can we, what is this? Okay, so that's gonna fetch us a little bit more money. That would have the support of Congress, so, and that's going to fetch us some more money. So let's go ahead and move our tax investigation system from weak and tolerant to regular and repressive. It's going to be a little bit unpopular, but just to be able to get that tax revenue, it's going to help us. That way we're able to properly fund our tax system and then able to get, it says they differ from effectiveness and lack of popularity. Tax inspections carried out by officials of the tax authorities range from a simple formal inspection to rectify obvious errors to an in-depth investigation comparing declarations with external elements. But let's go ahead and attach that to the reform, and that does not help us at all. That does not help us at all. So it looks like that we are going to fail on this tax reform. Let's see the international reaction, the reaction to that. Republican Alliance.
The procession is moving through the streets as we speak.
Government's policy of welfare dependency. So that's welfare dependency. Employer federal union.
Business leaders are currently marching through the city relatively calmly without breaching the peace. The press has come en masse to cover the events, and the business leaders who are best known for their hostility towards you are delighted in denouncing the bankruptcy of the country and calling for the compulsory liquidation of the government.
Compulsory liquidation of the government. That's interesting. Environmental leader, we have Journey to Mars, and then this. Increased company contribution tax rebalancing. Mr. President, the population as a whole has a light tax policy in this country. It is a pity that businesses do not profit from the same advantages, particularly in the industrial area, a true source of job creation and GDP. Speaking of that, let's go over to tax, and then we may have to cancel this. We may have to cancel our reform because we do not have the votes in Congress anymore. That is very unfortunate. We're going to have to shoot at this another time. So we have the opportunity to withdraw the reform, and we don't have a date for it because this is kind of bugged out. That happens usually whenever you make a large reform. But I guess I'm going to go ahead and have to withdraw the reform. The bill has been withdrawn. It was introduced on 2/27, 2021, and the next proposition date for these bills will be on at the end of the month of March. So it's going to be in about a month that we are going to be able to touch those things again. American Revenue Act of 2020 has been canceled.
You have just cancelled the reform that was under deliberation. Don't worry, the voting process hadn't started yet, so the cancellation is official.
This is what we're going to do. We're going to go over to farming. We're going to go into these economic sectors, and we're going to help them grow. We're going to, instead of using a tax reform to affect the economy, what we're going to do, we're going to go into all of these sectors in depth, and we are going to subsidize them. So automatically, flat out, I give agriculture massive amounts of subsidies, and in this gameplay I'm gonna give them over $100 million worth of subsidies throughout the entire agricultural sector. There are going to be a couple of these things that I'm not going to subsidize. I'm going to cut subsidies from cannabis for right now. Those are not going to get any subsidies for yet. Let's go through here. Colza, let me give you not 10 billion, I'm going to give you $1 billion worth of subsidies, and that is going to increase our production by a lot. And if I give them about $5 billion worth of subsidies, we're actually able to overturn our consumption of colza. And if you don't know what colza is actually used in biofuel. And so that affects directly my energy production. Let me go through. We got fishing, aquaculture. I'm going to leave those as is. I'm going to cut subsidies from the wood sector because we don't want to encourage any more wood production as of right now. Immigration, another plan that we have to do. We don't even have to touch the wall anymore, but what we can do is that we can conduct an operation to regularize the situation of illegal immigrants within the country. And obviously we're going to shoot for one that is within the 5-year time frame. If they have lived on the territory for more than 5 years, then they will be the priority for our administration. Let's go ahead and read the newspaper for right now. We are in March. Tsunami and major catastrophe in Oman. A tsunami of rare violence swept the Omani coast. Nothing was able to stop the 9-meter wall that advanced more than 10 kilometers inland. The outcome appears to be disastrous. At least 723 people are missing in just a few minutes. The hospitals are still operational in the regions that are overwhelmed by the flood victims of this disaster. Let's go ahead and look at the Omani disaster. And let's go ahead and give them about $20 million worth of international aid that will help them out in their endeavor. Try to help them out as much as we can. Let's see any other national disasters that are happening right now. Nothing as of right yet. I know there is a tsunami in Japan and an earthquake. Well, there's an earthquake in Japan and then a tsunami, I believe, in the Philippines. The Philippines actually like us. That's interesting. So we could have a meeting with them, even though we don't necessarily approve of this guy right here. He has one of the strictest drug policies throughout the entire world. But we do have very good relations with the Republic of Indonesia. So that's let's go ahead and ask them. Let's ask for a military alliance. I'm going to ask for a non-aggression pact. That's going to be our biggest thing for right now. Contract has been accepted. We now have a strategic agreement with the Republic of Indonesia. That is awesome. They're going to be a very strategic ally for us. If we can get some bases over here, then they will be one of the biggest counter threats that we have against the People's Republic of China. In any case, if we do go to war with China, then we will definitely take advantage of places like South Korea. Like we already have bases in South Korea, so I think we could increase our troop numbers in South Korea. We could get a strategic agreement with Taiwan, and then as well as we are going to get some strategic agreements with Indonesia. So that's going to be, they're also going to be a very good trading partner for us as of right now. In Angola, what's going on over here? We could actually increase our oil imports from Angola, but I think I already have some oil imports coming in from someone else. Let's look real quick. Economy. It's Angola, but yeah, it's Mexico. We actually have some oil coming in from Mexico. Pretty cheap. I think we have it pretty cheap. But if we go to Angola, with the disadvantage of importing oil from Angola is that they do not have independent pricing. They are obviously a part of OPEC, as I have played Angola a few times before. Education. Let's go ahead and give full funding to teacher training, full funding to supervision and guidance, and let's give school equipment and material. It's an additional $1.6 billion, and we actually got this deficit down from 6.1% to 5.81%. So that's better. That it's starting to look a little bit better, but we need to get that down. Target goal, I think we're gonna shoot to get that down to at least 2%. And then once we get it down to 2%, we're basically deficit spending by that point. So essentially what deficit spending is you're spending money on your deficit. You're not necessarily spending any more money on anything else, even though I am going to be embarking on some larger construction projects, such as high-speed rail and especially nuclear plants. After my first 100 days, which again, that's going to be about a month from now, so this is going to be the final part of the first 100 days parts, I guess, in this series. Let's go ahead and shoot this for 825,000 public education employees. That's going to be teachers. We call it, I think this is all teachers, but it's also just manpower in general. Let's do an investment on higher education. Let's do 15 15 university centers, $2.6 billion over the next year, and then $13 billion exactly over the next 5 years. Distribute that all over the country. And then establish freedom of teachers. We could lax government intrusion into the freedom of teachers. That would be a good thing. Decentralize education, but I don't think that's a policy of Joe Biden, so I think I might not do that. Technical training, let's give you some more funding, and agricultural training, give you some more funding, and general education, let's fully fund general education. Well, actually, let's give one additional star to general education, and let's do scientific, economy, law, and commerce, literacy and teaching, and then 2 stars to medical training. It's going to be an additional $4 billion. We could do that, and then for that, let's increase the pay of these teachers by $300. And again, that's looks like about $10 billion that I just invested into public education, but that's going to help us out in the long run. Wow, we have a shock in growth right now, and that is reflecting into our stock market. I think this is because of the tax reform that we introduced. It seems to be about less than 10 days ago, so yes, that is because of the tax reform. That did not reflect that well into the stock market. But we are going to go to the end of the month, and we're going to attend this meeting.
Good morning.
Good morning. It is Romania. Sales, they want to sell us some coal. Our production of coal is minimal compared to the national production. Our consumption of coal is minimal compared to the production that they want to give us. So we're going to go ahead and refuse that contract. Let's go ahead and offer you a coffee, renegotiate the military alliance. You are a member of NATO, so that is great that we have military relations with Romania. Let's go ahead and... Looks like we have a demonstration against the tax policy that we have. Jihadist Caliphate has been defeated in Burkina Faso. That is awesome for anti-terrorism operations. Speaking of anti-terrorism operations, we're going to do some citizen awareness of cybersecurity. We're going to go to the CIA, and we're going to affect our major networks. We're going to do pull out of Vietnam for a second time. We're going to pull out of Venezuela, pull out of Thailand. We're not going to worry about Saudi Arabia for right now. I really don't need to worry about them. We're going to worry about Russia, obviously. I think we're going to worry about Pakistan, since they're going to be more of a Chinese ally. Obviously, we're going to worry about North Korea, so let's put 40 people over there. Nigeria, for right now, for anti-terrorism purposes, we're going to be worrying about them. Mexico, we're going to be worrying about them. We're going to be dismantling some terrorist organizations in Mexico. And then Egypt, I'm not going to worry about you. China, we're going to worry about you. Let's do 40. And Argentina, I'm not going to worry about you. So then we have the list. Let's do this, and then this, equal these out. Indonesia, definitely. So let's dismantle. India, can we dismantle? Wait, what are our relations with India? I think India hates us. Yes, they do hate us, so we're not going to do you any favors for right now, India. Until you have a regime change, definitely not going to worry. China, cyber attack preparation. Iran, cyber attack preparation. Mexico, dismantle terrorist groups. Nigeria, dismantle. And North Korea, we're going to do cyber attack preparation. Pakistan, I think, what are our relations, current relations with Pakistan for right now? I know they're a free system, so I think we could approach some of these. Well, actually, let's do cyber attack preparation and then just intervene within their, we're going to intervene into their elections. And then Russia, we're going to do cyber attack preparation. Or we could do demolition of strategical objectives or a meteor operation. Demolition of strategical objectives, usually this is whenever you get rid of their space things, which, I mean, we are going to be competing against Russia in space. So we could, we're going to be relying on ourselves. Terrorists, here, file. Let's place all of these guys under surveillance. I guess it switched out in the in comparison to the previous episode. Let's go ahead and cancel that. and then infiltrate the terrorist organization. Italian mafia. Italy. Let's go ahead and dismantle them at home. So we're gonna do this, and then dismantle terrorist groups. We're gonna dismantle the Italian mafia. And then in Ukraine, let's go ahead and give you about $2 billion worth of aid, just so we can help you out, that you're going to be a major ally with us against the Russians, just in case, because if there is any breakout of an international conflict, we are going to get involved.
The vote was held and the reform was adopted.
Really? I thought I withdrew the reform. What are our tax policies now? 8% on employee. 8% on employee. Tax on petroleum products is now 6 cents. We have a tax on large digital companies now. We have a carbon tax, and our tax on industrial pollution is now higher. So let's put that at 0.25. Can we get that up there? No. Can we do it at 0.15? We can. So let's introduce that again. We're gonna get that done by. We're gonna get that done by the end of March. Instituting into new tax on the web giants. Mr. President, a new tax on the large digital companies has been passed in the Parliament, or Congress. It has the double benefit of being popular and filling the coffers of the state. But where that the magic stops, because the digital sector will naturally be affected by this, and as you can imagine, the GDP will drop and thus their unemployment rate. Speaking of, we still need to go back into the economy. I am trying to do like 40 things at once, and that's the fun part about this, is because I'm trying to balance, because I thought, that's why I kind of got confused, is because like I thought I canceled the tax reform and I was going to just go back into the economy and then just invest into the economy, but apparently that the tax reform just passed, so I guess that's a double benefit for us. Aeronautical construction, what's going on over here? 40%, we have $3.9 billion, and then we are making $76 billion right now in sales. Let's go ahead and give you $600 million in subsidies. Aircraft carrier, we're going to increase our production on this, $100 million for you. Aluminum, let's give you $300 million. We're going to be giving all of these different sectors different kinds of subsidies. Automobile construction. Let's give you $1.5 billion worth of subsidies. Bauxite we're going to have to import. Biotechnology we can invest in. We can give you $500 million worth of subsidies. I don't think that's going to affect... Actually, it does. Let's give you an additional $1 billion worth of subsidies. That puts us at 38% production. Bottled water. We have a good production of you, but we can expand it further. Building, housing, and roadway is going to be a very important sector for us. So let's think about it. $25 billion is going to be enough for you. And that's going to help us, for one, increase our manpower that we have available to us for other construction projects. This is one of the best things to invest in. You can nationalize it fully, and then that would give you control over how much manpower you have. But we're going to talk about that in the economic tutorial. Except, also, it is extremely expensive for us to even get involved into it in the first place. Cement, what do we have? This is going to help us out in building, housing, and roadways, so let's give you $3 billion worth of subsidies. That helps us out just slightly. Chemical industry, let's give you $3 billion worth of subsidies. That doesn't help out that much, but I think it'll help us out in the long term. Clothing, I think we could work on that later. Computer hardware industry. Let's go ahead and start up an American industry of computer hardware. Increases it just a tiny bit. Construction of electric automobiles is going to be an extremely big priority for this administration. Let's give $2.5 billion to electric automobiles. And then electric utility vehicles, we can give $3 billion worth of subsidies. Wow, don't want to have 80% of the of the production. Well, I mean, 2.5? Okay, I can do that. 62% of the world production, I guess. Okay. Consumer electronics. Let's do $500 million. This is a huge stimulus program that I am just pumping money back into the economy, and this will turn back into us in the future, in the long term. Let's do $500 million for fuel cell batteries. This is going to be directly related to the electric automobiles. Gold. Can we increase our production in gold? Let's do $100 million. We could do slightly? No? Maybe. I mean, we could see, and then by the next episode, if it's not going up, then we could just cut off those subsidies. Let's do $1 billion for iron. That increases it just a tiny little bit. Let's do an additional $2 billion. That'll do it. Naval construction. Let's go ahead and start up a naval construction industry. Let's do $300 million for naval construction. And then let's exonerate the sector as well. I think we could also tread the government into naval construction. Will that even pass? That will not pass. We can do a TV address. Let's do $2 billion. Yep, that'll help. Sodas. I don't think I want to mess with sodas right now. I mean, we're fat enough, I guess. Steel. Can we do $5 billion into the steel industry? Tax revenue. How much were we making? 1.5% off of taxes there. Water supply networks is going to be a huge priority for this administration. Not $52 billion. We're going to do $5 billion into water supply networks. So that goes from 23% to 24%. Let's do $10 billion into water supply networks, because this is the sector that has a direct connection into the agricultural industry. We don't need anything to produce water supply networks, but again, that is going to be the biggest priority for us, because we need to make sure that we are able to feed ourselves. I think that's going to be enough for our industrial production. Let's go over to advertising, our service sector. And let's do $3 billion into air transportation. Just after the coronavirus, these guys really need our help, so let's give them some money for their liking. Let's do attraction parks. Don't think we're going to be doing anything over there. We have the diabetes vaccine. Can we do $1 billion into the diabetes vaccine? I think, well, actually, this has a direct connection into the technologies. So it also advances research specifically tied to the sector, leading to new discoveries, followed by the commercialization of technologies and new products. So we're going to go ahead and give them $1 billion worth of research subsidies. Numerical networks and construction, or infrastructure. Let's give you $2.5 billion worth of subsidies. And then this is expanding our deficit by a lot. So we need to watch. We need to watch it, but this is going to help our deficit in terms of revenue and GDP growth that we're going to be getting in the long term. Let's go ahead and nationalize the urban transportation sector by a minority shareholder. Employer Federal Union, and they are demonstrating in the streets of Washington. We have 2 TV addresses right now, and we have a hostage taken.
The kidnapping.
That is a big situation right now. In the first 100 days, we have a hostage taken from somewhere. Let's look. The Chinese mafia. Really? The Chinese mafia took him. Ouch, that really hurts our popularity. We should be able to get the location for them.
Our agents have infiltrated.
Yep, our agents have infiltrated it. So we're going to go over a couple of days. We're going to go to the end of the first quarter. That is one of the biggest things about April, is that it is the end of your first quarter. So we're going to see what these results are for the first quarter of 2021 and see what we can do in terms of the future. Greece has abandoned their moon mission, unfortunately. We're not going to mess with our space missions as of yet. Law and industrial pollution tax has been passed. And adjust the degree of nationalization. And I believe that was for... Let's go back. It was not automobile construction that's already nationalized. It was naval construction. Naval construction is what we are doing. Let's do an additional $1 billion worth of subsidies over there. That gives us a 1% of the world production. So that will help us out here. Let's go over here, units by year. And then South Korea. Where is the United States? 1.1. So we're doing 1 ship per year. And South Korea produces about 22 ships per year. So we have a lot of competition to go up against, but hopefully our naval construction industry will prevail over the next couple of years. We have a negative $2.2 billion trade deficit right now, but we are making $33 million in sales right now and $12 million in profits. Our productivity index is 0.2. It's almost a quarter of the full one that we need. I think this is in terms of it's also, this is kind of like mainly related to your profits and sales. The higher that this number can be, the higher your profits will be in terms of your sales. Let's go to the next day, April 1st, and let's see what our economy is doing after the first quarter. You have an issuance of $252 billion worth of national debt.
Our fiscal
fiscal performance in the last quarter is poor and shows a deficit, which has forced us to undertake an issuance of debt, so our national and international lenders can take it over. So unfortunately, we did have to borrow over $252 billion worth of debt. That will change over the next couple of quarters, maybe 1 or 2 quarters that we're going to have to borrow from, but then this number is not going to be as significant as that. Maybe we can cut about $200 billion from that. Maybe, you know, we're going to be borrowing on average at least less than $100 billion per quarter. And whenever that happens, especially as the United States in terms of the size of your economy, that is most of the time minimal. Let's go here, Orion Space Program, and let's go to the next day. Impose a price reduction has passed. Public finances, not really popular. Let's check our public finances right now. 5.72% public deficit. We are spending over $1 trillion on our health right now, which is pretty good that we're expanding it. So that means that more people are able to become covered. And for our interest rate negotiation, I wanted to talk to you about our debt issuance. I forgot to tell you that something that I think is important, and you can negotiate all of our lending partners for a reduction in their interest rates. Well, sometimes these things are just so, just the way they're worded. And I know it's a French company, but sometimes while I'm trying to talk, it just seems a little bit off. Either that or I'm dyslexic or something. I don't know. But anyway, we already do know that we can negotiate some lower interest rates, which I think in the next episode, wow, we definitely need to be doing that with Japan right now. We are borrowing the most from Japan, the second most from Japan, and we have an 11% interest rate with them. I mean, we could get involved just because they're one of our biggest lenders. We could get involved in their national elections and get a liberal group in control of Japan. That wouldn't be the best thing to do. I don't know. I mean, we could do a cyber attack and no one would really know who it was, and they're free enough in which that those cyber attacks would work. But anyway, guys, we are now in the month of April. If you guys like this, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new. If you guys want to see more content like this, just hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any more episodes of the United States. If you want to see any other series on Power and Revolution, do feel free to make a suggestion in the comments down below. So anyway, guys, if you guys like this, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you guys in the next episode.